Greetings and good morning, great to see you again. Today we are going to be making something that is so special, so fantastic, mouth-watering brilliant. We are going to be making beetroot, chocolate and orange wine. This combination of the beetroot and the orange goes together beautifully because orange cuts through that earthiness of the beetroot. And then if you add cocoa powder, the chocolate to the mix, to the recipe, it all binds itself in a divine, most excellent, most awesome, fantastic winter warmer tipple. This wine is one I make every year. I've perfected the recipe. So come on, let's get in and make the beetroot, orange and chocolate wine. Fantastic! The first thing we need to do is slice about 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos of beetroot. That's about 1 standard wine glass for me. Anyway, slice your beetroot into little small chunks as if you're going to be pickling them and preserving them afterwards. That's exactly what you can do and what I'm going to be doing afterwards. You can pickle your beetroot after you've made this wine. So you get double the goodness. You get both wine and you get pickled beetroot. Fantastic. So slice it all up into little slices or chunks, however you prefer your beetroot to be pickled. With your beetroot all sliced up, ready for pickling, you want to throw it into a big saucepan and pour over 2 litres of boiling water. Cover, whack it on the stove and bring to the boil, and then let it simmer for about 15-20 minutes until those slices of beetroot are all perfectly, fantastically soft enough to put into your pickling jar and cover with your vinegar and your favourite herbs. Fantastic. So whilst that's simmering away, we're going to crack on and get the next element of this fantastic wine sorted out and done. And that element is halving and squeezing the juice of 10 large oranges. Get all that juice out in a really good squeeze and get as much juice out as you can, because that orange juice that you're going to squeeze out really blends well and counterbalances the earthiness of the beetroot to give it a sublime, fantastic taste in the mouth that tingles your tongue and lasts and puckers your cheeks. So half and squeeze in your lemon juice into a jug. Fantastic. With your lovely beetroots simmering away, releasing all of that juicy, brilliant red colour and that earthy flavour into the water, and with the oranges squeezed and ready to go, we want to weigh out 250 grams of pure cocoa powder. With cocoa powder, try to choose the type that has the least amount of ingredients. You don't want to be buying stuff with added chemicals and stabilizers and things like that. That won't do your wine any good. So where you can, go for a better quality without the added crap to it. Just go for pure cocoa powder where you can. A tiny bit of acidity regulator doesn't do any harm to the wine. So if you see that on the ingredients and it's only cocoa powder and acidity regulator, your cocoa powder is fine to use. And let's talk sugar. For this recipe, I find that a brown sugar, I'm using demerara sugar, really adds to the depth of that earthy, rooty, woody flavour that the beetroot imparts. Brown sugar to recipes does impart a certain nuttiness and depth of character which don't get with white granulated sugar. So for certain recipes, I really am enthusiastic about using brown or demerara sugar. And for this recipe, we are only needing to add 1 kilogram of the brown sugar to the mix, because the added sugar from the beetroot and the cocoa powder and the orange juice will bring up your total sugars to make this a wine of around 12%. If you want it stronger, add more sugar. If you want it weaker, add less sugar. If you want it sweeter, use a yeast that won't consume that much sugar, and then you're left over with a sweeter wine. So play around with your hydrometer and make the wine that you want to drink. So whilst you wait for your beetroot to finish off simmering, go make yourself a brew or have a glass of wine, and I'll see you when my beetroot is ready to be pickled. With your beetroot being lovely and tender and ready for pickling if you fancy pickling it or eating it for dinner, it's time to extract the lovely dark red, blood red juice into your large 5-gallon fermentation bucket. Now, you could put this straight into a demijohn if you so wished. However, the cocoa powder always, always, always creates a heap load of foam and froth on top, and in a demijohn it would just go over. If you want to use a demijohn, split the total contents down into 2 demijohns to give yourself a lot of headspace. Then once the foam and froth, that fervid fermentation has taken place, combine both demijohns into one and you'll be sorted. But it is so much easier to use your big bucket. So simply sieve off all of your beetroot ready and put the juice into your bucket. With your lovely, deep, dark, flavoursome beetroot juice in your buckets, we now can prepare the sugar, cocoa powder and that orange juice. Really simple process. All we need to do is combine all three in a saucepan. It really does not matter which combination or order you add it to your saucepan. But what I like to do is rinse off your bowl of cocoa powder with the orange juice. If a few pips go into your mix, it does not really matter that much. It will not impart a bitter taste, as some people seem to think. The only issue is with pips, if you leave them in, they will make a bitter taste if you leave them in them for months. But this is only going to spend about 3 or 5 days in the primary fermenter. So add your sugar on top of your orange juice and your cocoa powder, and then pour over 2 litres of boiling water. And the smell coming off it is divine. And give it a quick swill, and then back on the heat on a low simmer until everything has been dissolved and mixed in, and that cocoa powder is fully dissolved with the sugar. So just simmer it until everything is dissolved. It really won't take long at all. And then all we need to do once the cocoa powder and sugar has been dissolved into the mix is pour it into your bucket on top of your beetroots. Rinse the pan off with a litre of cold water. Just get any extra bits of chocolate or beetroot or sugar that might be stuck to the bottom. It is amazing how beetroot and orange and chocolate come together to bring this divinity of flavours in your nose. It takes every nostril hair. It takes every element. This wine is one that you want to keep drinking and drinking over winter. So make more of it. Make a 5-gallon batch if you can. So what we need to do now is simply loosely cover and let it come down to room temperature. And then we will be back for the next stage in the process of making this fantastic beetroot, chocolate and orange wine. Can't think of a greater combination for overwinter. So I'll see you very shortly now. And now, once your beetroot, chocolate and orange wine has cooled down to just above room temperature, we can proceed with the next step, which is simply pouring a teaspoon's worth of pectolase. Pectolase will help prevent a pectic haze from forming, which might not help your wine clear very well. Onto the fun bit, the yeast. As I said before, chocolate is a very vigorous, fervid fermenter. It froths, it foams, it goes everywhere, hence using a bigger bucket to brew it in. So I'm using a high alcohol wine yeast by Cross My Loof, and it comes with added nutrients which will really help support all that foam and froth, and it will work its way through the sugar, creating all that aeration and beautifulness that this wine deserves. So sprinkle in your chosen wine yeast. You don't have to use a high alcohol. You can use a general purpose wine yeast if you so fancy. So sprinkle in your yeast. And then we want to put the lid on with a clean air lock in and let this stand in a warm place for 3, 4, 5 days and let it froth and foam and become an epically awesome wine. And then I'll be back with you in 3 to 5 days to continue and finish off this brilliant wine. Greetings and welcome back. 5 days have passed and the lovely beetroot, orange and chocolate wine has been fermenting away in the big bucket, becoming fervid, this big froth foaming and getting all vigorous and lively and having a great party in the tub. That's what we love. We love having a party in the tub, don't we? So what we need to do now is very simply transfer your lovely blood red beetroot and chocolate coloured wine into a clean, sanitised, sterilised demijohn. Really simple, just pour it straight in through a funnel into the demijohn. The colour of that is gorgeous, it's brilliant, it's blood red, and the cocoa really darkens the beetroot red colour. It is divine. You may want to use a dark coloured demijohn for this. The dark colour helps prevent the sun from penetrating the beetroot and the colour getting skunked by the sun and the colour fading and becoming a brown over a red. And any surplus wine that you have in your fermentation buckets, you want to decant into a wine bottle and put the cap on ever so gently and loosely and put it in the fridge ready for topping up your lovely beetroot, chocolate and orange wine when you come to rack it off. I can't wait to do a proper taste test of this wine when it's finished fermenting and maturing and has become awesome. But now I have a small glass just to do a wee progress test on it. So, that is so good. It's like eating a chocolate velvet cake. The cocoa comes through with that orangey twang, and then there's earthy beetrootness as a base note, and it's just so divine and gorgeous. So what we need to do now, apart from enjoying that wine glass of the progress report of the beetroot, chocolate and orange wine, is insert a clean airlock into your demijohn and then place it away in a dark, warm place for it to carry on fermenting. Then, once it's dry, we can set it aside in a cool place for all that sediment to drop, and it will drop a fair amount because the cocoa powder, it is rather thick. This came from the bottom of the bucket where there was most cocoa powder, but it will be quite a heavy dropper sediment-wise. But luckily we have the wine bottle full of lovely wine to top it up. Something else that is quite essential to do is to subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified of further future wine projects, recipes, taste tests, and all things homebrew, home wine. And why don't you check out this video up by here for another wonderful dessert wine. I will see you all really soon. You have a great day now. Enjoy. That's good.